I'm a big fan of graphic novels or of urban mythology, so we wanted to make it kind of an urban myth.
Baba Yaga.
And so the situations are heightened, the characters are a little over the top, the world is pushed.
We wanted a realistic vibe, but at the same time, kind of an otherworldly feel to it.
And it should feel not of this world, an underworld, a world that we've never seen before.
The big challenge with John Wick is there's two of everything. There's two directors, there's always at least two choices for every location. It took a very long time to whittle down all of these elements down to what we finally determined was going to be the physical manifestation of John Wick.
In the first draft, I did the casual storytelling method of just going small town, big city. We realized that the city needs to play a character in the piece. I think with a lot of these older, iconic cities, it has a personality.
Monumental architecture, space, the way light comes down into the streets when you have canyons, the way light comes into big spaces like lobbies.
And the personality not only affects the story, affects the characters they're in. New York is such a personality in and of itself. Once we decided, let's try New York, it became a character instantly.
John Wick and New York City. Chad and Dave were very keen on extrapolating the world of New York for the world of John Wick.
We love New York because even if you're on the streets, if you're in downtown Manhattan, it feels subterranean. The city's a very vertical city.
When you want a hyper-real world, Manhattan feels hyper-real. The buildings, the architecture, the Art Deco, you have everything you want.
I have not been able to really work in a way that shows classic New York off in the way that we're able to show it in John Wick.
Tasker crew. How many do you have?
Spaces in New York tend to be smaller. If you've got a big action sequence, you need room to do it, room to block it, room to shoot it. And you also don't want to set up a big, violent action sequence in a space that's too precious and that you could do damage. So you have to kind of weigh all of those things. In searching for the house, it was always important to us that pretty much anybody would want to live there. When you're watching the movie, you'd go, wow, that's great. I would love to live in a house like that. That punctuates the comfortable life. And we needed a house that was remote. John and his wife were not people who entertained or really had friends because they just really relied on each other. That was the most important thing in their lives. We finally found this particular house that, when it was originally built, was built to house an art collection. And because of that, it had windows in strange places and light coming in an interesting way. And that light would change during the course of the day. And that kind of alive environment felt right. Some of it is classic New York, some of it is contemporary New York. There is this sort of dichotomy of old and new, and it was finding places where we could combine them to make something interesting and pleasing and still move forward with the kind of graphic novel concept. We had to paste together several different elements to create it. So the directors always felt that the exterior of the hotel should be like the Flatiron Building. We found that for an exterior. Once you go inside, then that's another story. And we found a classic lobby that had been the lobby of the Kennard Building. It was sort of put together in the early 1920s. And that was one of the places that we were able to kind of mash together classic New York from the 1920s and a contemporary style that were brought into the classic to create this graphic novel idea of a lobby as opposed to something that's completely realistic.
Room 818.
In the city of New York, you can't go over 35 miles an hour. So how do you do a car chase? So we ended up getting on the Brooklyn Naval Yard and we designed a sequence there. And we ended up doing this a lot in the movie. We had to design to the location we could actually get. It was that sort of type of movie.
The finale, to a lot of people, would not look like what they think of as New York, but the worlds of New York are very vast, and often people really only think of it as Manhattan. So it was interesting to get out to the Navy Yard for the finale. It's sort of industrial to the max with cranes and dry docks. Very atmospheric because of that. It's very dangerous. It's dangerous to be there. It's dangerous to shoot there. And it's a very, very good place for a backdrop.
I was born and raised in New York, and I'd never been to the dry docks in the Navy Yards. It was intense. The great thing about this film is not a lot of CGI. It's really what you see is what you get. The Navy Yards was a true testament to that.
John's using his car and vehicle to take out guys. hit them, shoot them through the roof. It's fun. It's fun.
Well, you can't beat New York for a location. It just makes everything realer. It ups everybody's game. You have to come with your A game, and I think that really helps the movie.
I think it all adds to the grittiness and the darkness of the film because it's like you have these beautiful, beautiful old buildings that are just grays and marbles, and I think that's clean cut. And I think that old New York feeling is what adds to this film's allure. I think New York itself is a character in the film.
It really is the greatest character on any film set if a director shoots it right. These guys are taking advantage of it. Everything is going to lend to, I think, to a really great New York film.